Hey folks, how's it going? During the last video we managed to hit rank 30, and this unlocks two very important things for us. The first one being the Magna raids, the second one being the seraphic weapons. These are very important weapons for our grids. They are actually core to them. Sadly, we don't have the light and dark versions yet, but those are going to come out in March with the anniversary. Let's take a look at them. As you can see, getting your first SR weapon is going to be very easy. All we are missing here are a couple of very common items that can be easily farmed from the daily trials or from Angel Halo. The other two items can be farmed from normal quests or event draw boxes, while the most difficult item to acquire in here is probably the Dragon Scale. But we've been gifted 50 of each element from Cygames. Another easy way to acquire these scales is from the co-op shop. As far as skills goes, each of these weapons give you a blessing of their own Archangel, and these grant you a 10% damage boost whenever you're fighting an element. This bonus eventually goes up to 20% as you keep upgrading your weapon in the shop, and it eventually reaches the SSR rarity. So, getting all of these weapons at SR level is going to be our next objective for the short term. And looking at what materials we're missing in order to complete them, I'd say we're at a very decent point. The other important unlocks are the Omega Showdowns in the island of Zinkelsteel. These are the Omega versions of the bosses that you fought during the story up until now. This is where the grind begins, because each of these raids has a chance of dropping the Omega summons and the Omega weapons that we're going to need for our grids. Hosting one of these raids costs 2 Omega enemas, and you can run this quest up to 3 times a day. Due to the way the drop rates work in this game, I would suggest you try and host as many as you can. So, this is the drop table for Tiamat. As you can see, the first chest drops at a 2% rate and only contains the Tiamat Omega Summon. The second chest also drops at a 2% rate, but contains any of the 4 Tiamat weapons. Other than that, these items only come out of the host or MVP chests, and this is why it's important that you try and host as many raids as you can, because when you do so, you are guaranteed to get your host chest. And if you manage to only get 1 person or 2 people joining your raid to kill it, you also have a shot at getting an MVP chest as well. The other way that we can get these items is by leeching these raids, but by doing so you only really have a shot at the 2% drop rate chests, unless of course you join the raid of a single person who can kill the raid by himself but ended up opening it anyway. These raids are a bit too strong for us at the moment, so I decided to open it up as soon as I hosted it. I got 1 person joining in, and I'm waiting for them to finish it. As for the characters, I want to try and keep 4 characters alive in the front line, because our renown pendants depend on the amount of living characters at the end of the raid. And that's why I'm stopping here. And here we got lucky, we only had 1 person joining our raid, so we got both the MVP and the host chest. And while we didn't get a weapon or a summon out of them, we still had a better shot at them. And this is the result of our second raid. We got 12 pendants because we had 4 people in the front line, and we ended up 3rd. We managed to get 1 SR weapon, but sadly no MVP chest. So, these weapons have an Omega skill. This is the same category of skill that is present on the wind gun that we got by beating Tiamat back on chapter 4. Since these weapons are very commonly dropped, I want to try and save a few just so we can start fixing our grids before completely moving on from the current normal summon to the Magna ones. And now it's time to move on to Colossus. This is a boss that hits very hard, and right now we don't have the right tools to deal with him. So we're just going to call for backup immediately, because he's going to one-shot one of our characters with each of his strikes. Eventually we will want to run an attack down debuff, possibly 2, as well as some damage cuts, as well as somebody with a dodge and substitute skill. So with the help of some people we managed to bring the boss down, and this one drops our first Colossus Omega summon. So let's go take a look at it. When you equip this as your main summon, its aura gives a 50% boost to Vulcan skills. These Vulcan skills are the skills that are present on the Omega weapons, in this case the Colossus Cane. Now, this weapon already came out at skill level 10, but we're going to have to check on the wiki to see how much attack a skill level 10 weapon actually gives. So, on the left sidebar under weapon, we're going to pick weapon skills, and we're going to move to the attack up section. Here we can see that the Omega weapons, specifically the one that give a big boost to attack, in our case at skill level 10, this gives a 15% boost to attack. So by using an Omega Summon, this 15% boost to attack is going to go up to 22.5%. And if we go take a look at the Omega Summon, we see that once this summon reaches 3 stars, that means 4 total drops, that boost goes from 50 up to 100%. Meaning that a single Colossus weapon is going to boost the attack of your fire characters from 15 to 30%. And as far as objectives go, our next big objective is going to try and get all of the Omega Summons up to 3 stars. Once we get there, we will even be able to use the SR weapons in our grids in order to boost our damage. Using a skill level 3 to skill level 4 SR weapons is probably going to be better for us rather than using a random event weapon. So once we get a few more summons and a few more Omega weapons, we'll actually start looking into damage formulas and how to actually build a decent grid. For the time being, I'm just going to keep on focusing on acquiring those weapons and summons. Also, since we were falling a little behind on the story, I decided to catch up and start unlocking Yggdrasil. Completing the 4 island is going to also unlock the Yggdrasil Omega Showdown, which is going to add to our daily routine of farming the Omega raids. Her and Tiamat have always been fairly generous to me on my main account. Hopefully this can continue in here too. And with this done, we can actually move on to being one-shot by her. Reward-wise, we get one more Earth Sword for our team, some crystals and a leaf. And of course, one more side story. This one is Lancelot's, and it's the first one for the old Dragon Knight series. Still, we got a few more side stories to catch up on, so the Albion Citadel main story is going to have to wait a while. So, for the foreseeable future, our grinding plan is going to be to try and complete all of the hard raids as often as possible, trying to host all of the Magna raids as often as possible, and try to save up SSR weapons and SR weapons to use as skill fodder for later on. Working on our grids is going to be fairly difficult, but with every new weapon we get a tiny degree stronger, and we get that 2 to 3% further down into these raids. So, one last thing to touch on before we end this video are the Renown Pendants. This is a currency that you get for completing raids, and you can spend it in the shop. So from the menu we go to the shop, and here there is this section for our pendants. We open it up and we see that we've got two different types of pendants, Renown and Prestige. We don't actually care for the Prestige right now since this is a high level currency. As far as the Renown pendants go, we've got some Coronation Rings, which boost our character stats, Bronze, Silver and Gold Moons, which are their own currencies, and they can be used to purchase stuff like more potions or more berries. We've got some Omega Animas that we can buy should we fall short of host materials, or just if we should get unlucky with the hard rate drops. Some SR weapons which are fairly useless, and this is the kicker. Omega SSR weapons. These only cost 5000 Renown pendants, and the shop restocks each month with 2 new weapons for each type. The only exception is the Lumiere Sword Omega. There are 10 of these weapons, but these don't restock. So, what weapon you go for is completely up to you, based on your favorite element or whatever characters you like. If you are like me and you want to try and keep your element strength balanced, you will probably end up buying whichever weapon your raids won't drop. Otherwise, a good strategy would be to purchase weapons based on whichever element is going to be advantaged during the next event or guild war. For example, the next guild war is going to be Earth, so starting to buy wind weapons right now wouldn't be such a bad choice. Alright, just a little bit of an update before I actually end the video. During the last guild war, I managed to reach rank 20 with both Sentinel and the Arcana Dueler, and this allows me to move on to rank 3 and unlock the Dark Fencer. For just 300 class points, this is going to be a big step for us. And this is all for Miserable Mist. That 25% hit to attack and defense for all foes is going to be our mainstay skill for us for the rest of the game. And that's one very big objective reached. Character-wise, we also got Abby from the Guild War token draw, and since the Guild Wars always cycle themselves, I'm going to count her as a free character. As far as our work on this Seraphic weapon is concerned, this little quest down here is the Angel Halo, and with the recent boost in power that we've got from the last quest and events, we're strong enough to start running the very hard version without many issues. The enemies in here are all light element, but since we still don't have a decent dark team, we'll keep running with the fire one. This is also known as the Angel Hell, mainly due to the fact of how many times you're going to have to repeat this quest. So having a decent team, or a team that can at least complete it on auto without you having to worry about it, is probably ideal. Loot wise, just look at all those chests. This is a quest that gives a ton, and when I say a ton I mean a ton, of items. Mainly for uncapping characters, weapons and summons. So we're going to have to repeat this a few times in order to get enough materials to work on these Seraphic weapons. And thankfully our team can easily deal with it. Also, this quest gives a fair amount of experience, so if you want to run in here with underlevel character, you should probably be doing so. Actually, hold on, cause I've seen it drop a lot more than this. Yeah, that's it, that's a little bit better. We've got all the low orbs that we need for our Seraphic weapons, as well as some high level orbs that we will need later on. And while we're at it, let's take 30 seconds to craft them. Yeah, that's it. And there is one. And it also looks like we're fairly close to start uncapping it as well. One items we need are these fire halos that drop from the Primarch trials. And here we have the Wound of Gabriel. And for this one too, the second hand cap is the same deal. We need a couple more low orbs as well as the halo. Here we go with the Uriel's Gauntlet as well. And oh, for this one we only actually need the halo. That's great. And last but not by importance, Raphael's bow. Which we are also very close to uncapping. And that's it for now. Managed to get all 4 of these weapons, managed to unlock our first tier 3 class. Next time we're going to start by taking a look at the Primarch trials to see if we can start progressing on these weapons, as well as trying to catch up with more side stories and some day-to-day grind. So, see you next time. Ciao!